The Philadelphia 76ers have now dropped to 3-14 on the season following an overtime loss at the hand of the Houston Rockets. While this was much more of a spirited effort from the team, the results are still the results, and the time for moral victories has absolutely escaped the Sixers franchise. I want to break down if it is time to officially hit that panic button. Should we be talking more about the Cooper Flag, the Ace Bailey, the Igor Demon sweepstakes, and why I think that this next stretch of basketball will truly answer that question for us. So I want to start off by kind of reflecting on things a little bit. First, be pulling up the standings here that, as we can see, 3-14 for the Philadelphia 76ers, 14th place in the Eastern Conference, just above the Washington Wizards, who have lost 13 straight games, and the Sixers are just one game ahead of them there. So some really depressing stuff for what we're seeing from the Sixers team. But do want to highlight last night's game specifically. Ultimately, it did end up a 122-115 loss at the hands of the Houston Rockets in overtime there. As I mentioned, I did think this was a much better effort from the Sixers team. We saw some positive flashes. Tyrese Maxey with 39 points, 10 assists, did shoot just 14 of 34 from the field, 6 of 12 from beyond the arc, knocked down 3 free throws with 11 seconds left in the fourth quarter to ultimately tie the game. Really impressive stuff. Showed some guts there, and thankfully he got a foul call because he's still begging for those across the grand scale of things here. McCain has cooled off a little bit. He finished with 15 points last night, also added 6 rebounds, shot just 6 of 19 from the field, 0 for 7 from 3, which is unfortunate there. I think it's very clear we're seeing a more ratcheted up defensive attention on the rookie, which is part of the growing process and what we see for a lot of young players there. Not something that I'm super panicking about, but they could have used a little bit more from him last night, no doubt about it. Gershon Yabusele playing 43 minutes last night, finished with 22 points, 7 rebounds, shot 4 of 6 from beyond the arc, a guy that continues to look like a star in his role for this Sixers team, and very grateful to have him on this team. That it's frustrating to me that we have not seen this team fully constructed, because to me, Gershon is very clearly a high-level role player that can help a contender, and that is what I thought that he was brought into here to be. Now, for the Sixers team specifically, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It is dark at this point. I did not think the floor of this team was remotely this low. I thought at worst they'd be sitting maybe middle of the pack, kind of in that like 8 to 10 range like right now. That was worst case scenario for me. Everything that could go wrong has gone wrong for this Sixers team moving forward, and I do think that this next stretch will tell a lot. Now, to dive into exactly why I think that is the case, let me pull up the schedule here. And as you can see, last night at the hands of the Rockets, and for what it's worth, Houston is a legitimately good team, sitting at third place in the Western Conference, playing some really tough, hard-nosed basketball, loaded with athletic bodies. This was not a game that I walked into expecting the Sixers to win, but still, when you have them on the ropes and have a chance, you got to find a way to pull through, and that was not the case last night. Now, looking ahead that they will be back in action against the Detroit Pistons on Saturday, that is a game you have to win if you want to be serious about this season. Then it's the Charlotte Hornets. That is a game that you have to be serious about if you want to win this season. Back-to-backs against the Orlando Magic. Yes, the Magic are a good team, but they still don't have Paolo Banchero. They're still pretty beat up, and they're not a team that, you should be running from it and being fearful if you are the Sixers here. In my mind, you have to at least split, and if they can win 2 of them, if you have an opportunity to, you absolutely have to capitalize on that. Chicago Bulls, somewhat similar story. Bulls a little bit worse than the Magic, and they're a team that if you give their best effort on an any-night basis, they can absolutely pop for you. Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic. There's a lot of talent on the roster, but they are a team that I don't feel is fully connected, and obviously the Sixers at their best should absolutely be considered better than Chicago, so that is another game that I need to see this team win. Then back against the Hornets, that is a game you absolutely have to win before you face off with the Cavs, which will be a true test there. So looking at this next 5-game stretch that is ahead for this team, or 6-game stretch that is ahead for this team, I need to see like 5-1 from the Sixers for me to be ready for them to be a positive outlook from here. For me, what this feels like is almost like when a UFC fight, when the guy is down and just pounded on him, and the ref's like, I need to see something. I need to see him fight back a little. I need to see that he's not knocked out. That's what the Sixers season feels like, man. They're down on the mat. They're getting beat on, and I need to see over this stretch a little bit of locked in focus and competitiveness to fight back. That spirit has to be there over these next coming games, or I do think we should have a real talk about the lottery here. Now, speaking of the lottery, I do want to talk once again about why I don't think the Sixers are going to take this direction. I think it's a separate argument here to directly separate it for what they should do and what they will do. To directly talk about what they will do, I find it really hard to believe that Daryl Morey is going to punt this season. In order for them to have a true chance at the lottery, they have to really tank. And why I say that is because they have a top 6 protected pick, meaning it has to fall in the first 6 selections for the Sixers to get back that draft pick. If that is not the case, the pick goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder, and then you do all that for nothing. If that is the case, or you're running that risk, to me, I think the opportunity or the chances, particularly in Daryl Morey's brain, is there's a higher percentage of them scrapping their way out of the play-in and having a puncher's chance at the playoffs than it is worth the risk of potentially that pick falling in no man's land and this season all being for nothing. Now, to touch on what those exact numbers are, did want to pull out these lottery numbers, and shout out to Sixers Adam Aronson of the Philly Voice here. So this number on the right is the Sixers' chance of keeping the first rounder. So if they were to finish as one of the two worst teams, you'd have a 100% chance of keeping that draft pick. With the third pick, or the third worst odds there, a 93% chance. Fourth, 81.1. Fifth, 64%. Sixth, 45.8%. And that is kind of the cutoff that I would say that is less than 50%. Those are not going to be numbers that Daryl Morey loves. In order for that to be the case, I just want to, it to set in how bad the Sixers would truly have to be. That even as poorly as they have currently played, of us seeing 6 total minutes between Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid playing together, they're still not the worst team in the NBA. There's still a decent bit of cushion that they have to catch up with. Yes, they're 14th in the East. Yes, the Wizards are absolutely dreadful. But there's a lot of bad teams in the NBA, and there's a lot of basketball still to be played. So you can kind of accidentally win too many games and put yourself in a bad spot where you don't have a chance of bringing in this pick. Think about how bad it would be if this is the direction the Sixers take. Say they finish with the 8th worst record. You have a 26.3% chance of keeping your draft pick. That is not worth tanking the season for. Now, in an ideal world, and it plays out perfect, that you have a bad season, you get able to grab one of these top players, the Igor Demons, the Cooper Flags, the Ace Bailey, who, by the way, a little bit skeptical of Ace Bailey. I'm going to throw that out there right now. I'm not sure if I see it in the same way a lot of people are hyping him in. I guess I'll put it this way. To me, it's very clear that the Cooper Flag is a superior talent to Ace Bailey, that I don't quite see it in the same way. Don't see any playmaking chops. Don't see very little creation off the dribble. Don't love the shot selection. Gonna watch more of him. There's still a lot of college basketball still to be played. Not saying I'm out on him, but when kind of setting up these sweepstakes or race for the top picks, I'm a little skeptical. I think it might be more of a one-man race than people are trying to make it out to be. But anyway, with this Sixers team, you got to think about in an ideal world that you can have that bad season, add one of these top caliber prospects, and then you are set up for the next generation of Sixers basketball. That you're talking about the guys like Tyrese Maxey, who is still just 24 years old, averaging 25.7 points per game, 3.1 rebounds, 4.4 assists, seeing those shooting splits begin to creep up to 41.3% from the field, 31.8% from three. I'm confident those numbers will continue climbing. And then you add in a Jared McCain, who's averaging 16.5 points per game, 2.4 rebounds, 2.7 assists, shooting 44.9% from the field, 37.4% from three. When you have names like that and you're able to add a power forward that fits to what this team needs, you do have plenty of reason for optimism. But I just think the risk of actually accomplishing that is a bit more than people are making out to be. In theory, it works perfect, that you can have a bad season, you bring this back, and then you have a lot of talented players to play with looking ahead to next year. But I do think the reality of that and the fact that this is a top 6 protected pick adds a complicated layer to this. The Sixers have hit home runs outside the lottery by drafting Jared McCain with the 16th overall pick and Tyrese Maxey with the 21st overall pick. It truly is a cheat code to building a team when you have that sort of outlook there. You typically have to get a top 6, top 5 pick to land anywhere close to the all-star caliber of talent. It's pretty rare that you can hit on that, especially twice in that short period of time. So while you can think about this working and this being the next generation that you can kind of hand the Sixers to, I just think the risk is far more than Daryl Morey is going to be willing to. But ultimately, he may not have a choice. To me, a lot of it is going to go down to how this next stretch of basketball goes. These are winnable games, and particularly when you look ahead beyond that, we're talking about a matchup with the Celtics, the Spurs, the Cavs. There's a lot of tough games immediately following this pack. So if you want to prove that you can absolutely be a team intent on contending or have a chance at the playoffs this year, it absolutely has to happen during this next stretch here. And as bad as things look when I talk about how bad the rest of the NBA is, let's take a look at these standings one more time. The Sixers at 3-14 there, 13 games back out of first place. Let's look up the standings a little bit. Let's just use, for the sake of the example, the Chicago Bulls, who sit at 10th. That would be the last spot in the play-in tournament, which would take your opportunity for, if you lose, you'd have a slight chance. But really, you don't have a chance at the lottery if that is the case there. But to look at the Bulls in that 10th seed, they're sitting at 8-12. That is 9.5 games back from first place in the Eastern Conference there. So looking at that difference, a little 13 minus 8.5 here, we're talking about 4.5 games that are back from being in the playoff picture. They're still well over 60 games played left in this season. A lot of basketball still to be seen. So I do think it's premature to fully count them out. We have not seen this team as fully constructed, and it has to happen soon. Now, is my level of optimism high regarding that? Definitely not. Particularly when we get quotes like this from Sam Amick saying, the Athletic Sam Amick to the Sixers giving an extension with his knee issues. Quote, they acknowledged that the odds are okay. They're not great, and they felt good enough about it to do that deal. But they certainly can't guarantee that he's going to be okay. And with this full story here, it is that the Sixers met with 6 different doctors to kind of speak about Embiid's knee. And I think the unfortunate reality is we're seeing the worst case scenario here. You can critique him for not being on the floor, call him soft, whatever the case may be. The very clear reality could be here that just his body's failing him and that his knees are not up to the challenge anymore. And that is a dark outlook from here. He is still on the books for 5 more seasons, making a ton of money, full-scale max contract, MVP-level max contract. Joel Embiid is going to be paid plenty well, whether he is on the floor or not right now. But I do think that the uncomfortable conversations about Joel are going to be pressed more to the forefront, particularly if this is how things go for the rest of the season. For now, we will see what happens. There could be a world where all of a sudden Joel's ready to suit up starting on Saturday and play an extended period of games in a row, that his body responds fine. We will see what the case may be. But it feels like a pipe dream at this point. So I do think that this next stretch of basketball is going to tell us a lot about this Sixers team. I think there are positives still that you can squint when you do watch them play. The Jared McCains, the Tyrese Maxeys, the Yabuselis. There's moments Ricky Council IV did want to give a little shine to yesterday. But the reality is you got to start getting results. There's no way around it. So it is as bleak as has been in the Sixers world right now. We will see how things flip the script when they get back in action on Saturday. Need to put that one in the win column to have a chance there, but we'll see what happens from here. So appreciate each and one of you guys tuning into this video. Happy Thanksgiving to each of you guys watching this today. Appreciate every one of you as always. Make sure you're smashing that subscribe button if you have not already. Drop a like on this video and any comments you have below. Very excited to progress through the rest of the season with the Sixers Digest family, even if it's not going down as hoped here. So appreciate each and one of you guys once again, and be talking with you next time. Peace.